Was a university student in Michigan actually arrested and held in jail for now 83 days for posting a picture of his rifle on Snapchat? I mean, it looks like it. Why is he arrested? What is he charged with? What's it look like is going to happen in this case? Hang around with me. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I'm your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. And today, I'm bringing one of these short videos. If you like this short content, just sort of legal news and blurbs and some explanation behind it, please like, subscribe, share the video, all of that stuff. Tell your friends and grandparents or whatever. And consider being part of the channel's community. So this guy, Lucas Gerhard, is spent apparently 83 days in jail, and he faces terrorism charges. Now that I'm going to take umbrage with terrorism charges because what the statute is terroristic threats, which is a threat of violence. And in this case, they're presuming a threat of mass violence. And presuming is pretty heavy here. But it doesn't matter, right? He faces up to 20 years in prison for posting a photo of an AR-15 to Snapchat. So this is from Gunpowder Magazine. The link will be in the description. We're not going to go through this whole article because it's got a very long bit of interview with the boy's dad. You should definitely read it and kind of get the perspective on that. We're going to just pick out some key parts here. So he's studying criminal justice at Lake Superior State University in Michigan with the goal of becoming a law enforcement officer. Uh-oh, that terrorism charge is going to make that a little bit difficult. On August 23rd, he posted a photo of his lawfully purchased and registered AR-15 to a select group of Snapchat friends, writing, "This ought to make the snowflakes melt, eh? And I mean snowflakes, as in snow." I get it. There's a double entendre there. And that double entendre means he's going to murder everyone. You can't joke. You can't make jokes anymore. Jokes equal death in the eyes of the new Puritan, right? But let's see what the real scoop is here. He's almost immediately arrested and charged with making a threat. Felony can be sentenced up to 20 years in prison. Yes. That is true. We're going to look at the statute in just a second. But here is the picture. Here's the Snapchat photo. Now, let's figure out what happened. Blah, blah, blah. The long and short, here it is. Here it is. This is it. Lucas had a political dispute with his accuser about Columbus Day, which she demanded he referred to as Indigenous Peoples Day. And this girl was very passionate that it should not be Columbus Day. Lucas eventually just blocked her off his Snapchat. Not only did Lucas find it necessary to block this one particular girl, but in time, a few others too, because they were so antagonistic, which is fine, it happens. So now, girl blocked on Snapchat. Lucas posts to his own Snapchat, which she is blocked from, this picture. She sees it somewhere else. Notice this is not a screenshot of Snapchat. This is a photo of someone else's phone that I believe was taken by his accuser. And this was turned in as a threat of violence. So great story there. Let's take a look at what the Michigan statute says about this. There is a very specific statute for these terroristic threats. It is section 750.543M of the Michigan Penal Code. Wemaking terrorist threat or false report of terrorism, intent or capability as defense prohibited, violation is felony, penalty. Very straightforward statute. We're going to look at this first one. A person is guilty of making a terroristic threat or of making a false report of terrorism if the person does either of the following: threatens to commit an act of terrorism and communicates the threat to any other person. Now, importantly, with this statute, they don't have to threaten the target, right? I don't have to say, I'm gonna kill you to make it a terrorist threat. I can say, I'm gonna kill Bob to Janice. If I say it to Janice and I'm gonna kill Bob, then that could be the terroristic threat, right? Is I have made the threat to any other person. It doesn't need to be communicated to an intended target. It doesn't even need to be communicated to a target who would automatically be expected to communicate it to the target, if that makes sense. So sometimes in some states, like mine in Minnesota, you would have to communicate the threat to a third party with the intent and reasonable expectation that that would be then transmitted to the recipient of the threat. Apparently, under this statute, that is not necessary, just communicating it to any person. Now, I'm not sure if case law has pared this down, but we're going with the plain language of the statute because I think it's sufficient for this case. The real question is, did he communicate a threat? Did he threaten anybody with this photo? I don't think so, but we'll keep going. B, knowingly makes a false report of an act of terrorism and communicates that false report to any other person, knowing the report is false. That knowing the report is false thing is the only thing that's going to save his friend here who reported him, because they will say, well, I didn't know it was false. Even though there wasn't a threat there, they'll just feign ignorance. It'll be very hard to prove that they knew the report was false. Now, if there was some sort of communication or something like that between her and someone else, he could maybe actually, well, I shouldn't say he could. The state of Michigan may actually have a claim against this person. They're not going to pursue it. This is a legal theory discussion, not a legal practicality discussion, okay? Michigan will not pursue that. I was just talking about what technically might have been illegal and how they could go about getting it. So it's not a defense to a prosecution under this section if the defendant did not have the intent or capability of committing the act of terrorism. And we have to be very careful with this section of the statute because this is really important. So I say that his picture is not intended to be a threat. Well, if you look at this and take a quick read, you say, it doesn't matter that he didn't have the intent, right? But it's the intent of committing the act of terrorism. You must still, to make a threat, you must still manifest the requisite intent to communicate a threat. What this part of the thing is saying is like, if I say, I'm going to bomb Europa, it doesn't matter if I have the capability, like I don't have any bombs, I don't have a spaceship capable of launching bombs to Europa. It doesn't matter. If I intend to convey a threat of committing an act of terrorism against Europa, then that's all that matters. Whether or not I can fulfill my threat is irrelevant. So that's what this section is saying. It does not mean that it doesn't matter if you didn't intend to communicate a threat. The state will have a high burden here to prove that this guy was intending to communicate a threat, a terrorist threat to a third party. That's their goal. That's what they'll have to do. At the end of the day, there's almost no way this conviction holds up. Look, we've got lawful exercise of Second Amendment rights. We've got lawful exercise of First Amendment rights. There is no way a reasonable person, absent some other context. Now, maybe he had a follow-up that said, and by snowflakes, what I actually mean is this list of people who deserve the bullet. That's a different story, right? But given the context of this story that we have now, there's no way that this guy gets convicted. But at the end of the day, 3 months. This guy spent 3 months in county jail. Because here's what happens. He gets arrested, they book him in, and then his release conditions will be this massive amount of bail because he's obviously a danger to society, right? He just threatened to shoot up the school. Now we got to keep him in jail pending his trial because he's a dangerous element, blah, 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 $2 million bail. I don't know what they set for bail, but they'll set it really, really high, and that'll be that. But let's look at this guy's actions. There's a little bit more in here. He posts a picture. He goes up to the school. He even says, why would anyone take this post as a threat? He posted a disclaimer that the picture is not a threat, but then he deleted the original post. Okay, so now we have testimony that goes strongly against the state's case, says, look, this isn't a threat. This is clearly not a threat. And you're going to have to prove beyond any reasonable doubt that this is actually a threat that I'm trying to convey, in light of the fact that I've said it wasn't a threat and don't understand why anyone would take it so. But here, this is the amazing part. This concerned students go to public safety. Public safety elevated it all the way up to the I don't know what that city is. Marine police, who eventually came and searched Lucas's room after he had arrived, checked in his rifle and ammo, got his campus building pass key, and moved into his dormitory room. So he actually checks in the gun at the school and his ammo. Again, this just conveys, it casts doubt, right, on the idea that this is some lunatic who's hell-bent on murdering a bunch of students. It just doesn't look that way. Now, again, you can go on and read the rest of the interview with the dad, and he says a whole bunch of stuff. It doesn't matter. Oh, Lucas is now under house arrest. A bond modification hearing was held on November 12th. Whew. Good. That's great. Now he's just arrested to his home and accused of being a mass murderer in waiting. Perfect. Great for this kid's reputation. Anyway, this is the danger of this stuff, right? Practical. Don't post pictures of your AR with a kitschy phrase on it or something like that. That's if you've got a political enemy, they will use anything against you, even to the point of destroying your life or potentially getting you killed by police or whatever it is. They don't care. People don't care. They don't consider the consequences. There's no way a reasonable person could take this as a threat, right? It just isn't. You may take it as distasteful. You may think it's not well calculated. You may think it's a mistake. You may think a whole bunch of things. But to actually intend to communicate a threat is a very high bar. It's a very high bar because we have such strong free speech protections in the United States. So my prediction, this kid, he may plea it out, but I hope not. I hope somebody takes up his case and fights this thing and gets him out of it, and maybe even goes after the police for ridiculous arrest in the face of it. But we'll have to see. I think if he fights it, he'll win. He may take some sort of plea deal to disorderly conduct or disruptive behavior type of charge, which would be a misdemeanor with a small fine. I guess that would be possible, but really this case should be dismissed. So hopefully he's got a good lawyer on his side. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. There's no way he should be getting a full sentence on this or anything even close to it. He shouldn't even be convicted. But I just wanted to provide this story. It was brought to me. Thanks, Rusty Shackelford, for showing me this story. Really fascinating. And terroristic threats are really, really troublesome area of law. They're often charged, and almost as often they're dropped, just because it's such a hard crime to prove. You have to prove the intent of the person beyond any reasonable doubt. Most people don't convey a threat via Snapchat that they're going to murder like a whole group of people. It's just not a common thing for people to do. So if that's the charge, they gotta back it up with a lot of proof. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you like it, subscribe to it and stuff, share, whatever. I'll catch you later. Come watch my live streams. Typically every weeknight at 11 p.m. Central Time. There's always interesting stuff going on. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll get notified when YouTube decides to do it. All right. Thanks, y'all. Have a good night. Peace. Peace.